Guys, what's going on? Johnny of the Supplement Advisor. So today's video is very different. I don't usually delve into these kind of topics just because I've seen a lot over the years, literally. But knowing the way the algorithm is in general, and knowing the way that there are updated subscribers, updated followers, I think it's always good to touch base and just keep things transparent as always. That's what I firmly believe in, and that's been the whole core of my existence per se as the supplement advisor, just to keep things very honest and very real, just because it is a dying kind of vibe. Let me just be honest there. So guys, firstly, disclaimer, I'm not saying that anyone should do gear. That's entirely up to them, and as always, first seek approval from your GP doctor before trying anything. Literally, that's my disclaimer out there. Done. And guys, also please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to make it grow big. So as we get on to the whole existence of this video, I just want to point out again that these are my own personal interpretations and my own personal experiences. We all have different experiences, fair enough. So I'm not trying to say that one experience fits all. It's impossible. It's not like that. But what I'm trying to say is that keep open mind to what I'm saying, and with everything, try everything, hold on to what is good. That's also another firm belief I have right there. So bodybuilding for me personally. So the whole inception of why I started bodybuilding back in the day was just because growing up as a kid I was overweight, and I used to be very depressed, and it didn't help when friends and family would obviously make fun, and obviously acquaintances would make fun of my weight, and obviously made me feel some kind of way. Because growing up I wasn't always overweight per se. It only happened from probably the 3rd grade up until probably grade 7, grade 8, and then things changed dramatically. I just remember one day when my uncle used to live like in the same property, and he used to have a home gym in the center. So it'll be mine, my parents' Borzy means house, and then it'll be this. It was supposed to be a bar area, but this bar area turned into his own private gym, and then his house would be next to it. So it was all like kind of combined. You know, it was like it was a nice setup. It was a nice setup. So anyways, I really didn't show much interest in it. I mean, at first, because I don't know, just as any other kid, I think primarily the focuses were elsewhere. It was on gaming, it was on eating junk, all that kind of stuff. But this one particular time, I just remember him rocking out and literally posing, you know, just in his pants and no top, and I was like, whoa, you know, he's looking really good. And I mean, the closest thing that I've seen to that was obviously watching movies and seeing like guys are well built, but to see someone like really well built in the flesh, I was like, whoa, you know, because we came from a small town. It wasn't like, you know, we were in the city and you'll see big guys and be influenced per se. But when I saw him, I was like, damn, you know, I want this as well. Like, will I ever get there? That's obviously the first thought, even though I was so lucky. That was just the first thought in mind, was like, will I ever get there? So I just decided to take the bullet, and I was like, dude, let me just reenact what he's doing. So I tried. I literally took a dumbbell home, started trying to do concentration curls, and obviously I tried to go too heavy, too fast, ended up injuring my bicep. So I decided to suck up my pride, went to him, and was like, hey, can you please help me? And he definitely did. He helped me, he showed me the ropes, he showed me the way, and I just got bitten by the bug, man. Like literally from the age of 14, I literally got bitten by the bug. And that's also the whole thing too about the supplement reviews, was from that time when I was very young, I was just like, whoa, you know, this is a whole new world. And I was very lucky at the time too. My grandmother would basically pay for whatever supplement I wanted, because as soon as I started with this whole bodybuilding journey, he would give me all these bodybuilding books, and I would read them. I would, you know, be absolutely intrigued and fascinated, especially by, you know, the ads in the bodybuilding books, like Flex, Muscular Development, Muscular Evolution, all that kind of stuff. You just see the ads like gain 30 pounds in a month, and you know, I don't know, bro, it was just crazy shit back then. So I'll be very enticed and influenced as like a kid would, who wants to grow and obviously didn't want to take steroids. So you would obviously like understand from my point of view, if you grew up in the same kind of era and you read as many bodybuilding books as I did, because everyone was kind of no one would ever kind of speak about using drugs or using steroids, but they would talk about what supplement they're using, talk about like using a Celtec, Nitrotec, Inno Explode, Cell Mass, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I grew up under the illusion that all these guys are natural. Now, I would say that looking back, it's pretty dumb, but at the same time, you're a kid, you know, you don't know any better. And when I'll use these different kinds of supplements, I'll feel away, man. Like, and that's a whole kind of growth and building process of the supplement advisor, was just because as a kid, I was, you know, I grew up literally using every single supplement there was internationally, and you know, that's how I'm doing what I'm doing today, and have good knowledge generally on each and every single compound, product, and just have good background knowledge. Well, it's just because I also believe that, you know, if you're going to talk about something, experience it, try it, and then talk about it. You can't talk about something where you've not experienced it for the most part. You know, obviously there's some situations where you wouldn't want to try it all, but for me, I always believe that, hey, you know, if something's out there internationally that looks enticing, pre-workout, post-workout, and that you can get it locally in South Africa, because at the time, yeah, we actually had a good variety of international import products that were coming through. So I definitely do miss those times as well, bringing that point back up. So I will cut to the chase. All right, so talking about all of that, how we're going to the bodybuilding, yeah, I was just honestly intrigued by everything, and I enjoyed the process because I was the only one in school that was bodybuilding, and I loved it. You know, it kept me away from drugs. It kept me, well, yes, it did. It kept me away from partying, wasting time, you know, heartbreak, all that shit, because every single day was a grind, it was a process. I loved it. You know, I really, really loved it, and I really believe that I was headed for pro success, and you couldn't tell me otherwise. That's what I grew up on. But then obviously some things happened where there was a thought process of, you know, me growing up wanting to be a pro bodybuilder in the States, PT, all that kind of stuff, you know, the usual kind of thing as a bodybuilding latte would dream. And then obviously having that kind of effed around by wanting to be a soccer player. So I developed like severe anxiety and panic attacks from that. And then my whole world kind of went crashing down, you know. I lost a lot of size. I just lost a lot of drive and determination. I would be living on antidepressants and shit. And then I just remember not feeling myself at all. I just wake up every day just like, just you there. That's how I felt. So eventually I kind of got my shit together, finished high school, and then went straight to, you know, trying to do a PT course, that kind of stuff. But during that time, like, I had a surgery to remove gynecomastia. And now, guys, remember when the surgery happened, I was not used, or I had not used any steroid per se long term. First time I ever started touching steroids was probably the age of 17 when I touched it once. This is a fact. I remember going to a gym somewhere in Hillcrest, and I remember speaking to this one guy, and he sold me a super test. He literally put the vial inside a big tub of supplement SA, mass gainer, I think it was, I don't know what it was called back then, bro, but did that, and I took my first jab. And I had no idea how to jab. I was unsure about a lot of things, and very nervous, because I was like, you know, I came to a realization back then, I was like, bro, these guys are using gear and they're taking it to the next level. So I tried it as well. My first experience was very bad. I got abscess on my ass, and that kind of took me away from wanting to try steroids for a long time. I got put off of it, you know. But with that being said, I was still able to compete naturally at the age of about 19. Didn't do the best. I was meant to do under 18 category, ended up under 21s because I turned 19 on the weekend of the show, which was unfortunate, and obviously it took me back. And this is when also I kind of was like in crossroads. Should I carry on the bodybuilding because, you know, I literally didn't do well, or should I try something else? So with that all being said, guys, the other time when I actually first tried, I remember after the gyno surgery and all that, when I promised I was never going to touch, like, wasn't even going to look at gear, you know, because after that first experience with the abscess, and basically the whole school knowing, because you can't sit properly, and my doctor knowing, and obviously threatening me to, if I ever touch gear again, he's going to call the cops. So these experiences kind of, you know, put you off it completely. So the other time I remember when I was, I think about 25, when I just went on test SIP, and I think it was Remedex, you know, just as a very, very basic protocol kind of stack, right, let's say it like that. So the whole stack, it was working. I was working, I was gaining some size, but at the same time I had a lot of bad acne, obviously because the stuff I was using wasn't clean per se. And guess what? I started to resurrect my gyno. Now gyno can come back, you know, because you need estrogen in the body for it to work harmoniously with the testosterone, right? So it did kind of come back, and I was panicking. Obviously saw a real good doctor, Dr. Khan. He reversed it, and from there on, guys, that's where the real difference happened. So during the few years that followed there, like I just remember the one year in particular, I felt bad, like I felt very depressed, suicidal, wasn't able to lose weight no matter what I did, and just like not happy, not in a good spot. Only to find out my testosterone levels are severely low. Obviously after the PCT course, my test levels did not naturally kick back in. So like as I say, guys, like as much as I have been bodybuilding for all these years, there's obviously some years that are better than others. There's obviously some years where you see insane progress, and there's other years where you just like, you're just there. I'll say there was quite a few years where I was just there, like just trying to pass emotions, going through a lot of financial stress and, you know, all the shit, and hitting a lot of debt. So it does affect you differently. Now, there's no excuse for that, obviously. You are the creator of your own successes, I feel, in many situations. So I let that obviously get me down. So the real test and the real... So I would say from then on, when I actually found that my test levels were low, that's when I started to go on TRT. Now the TRT dose was Pfizer Test 100, and I went on 1 ml a week. I really respected the gear, to be honest with you guys. And I would, by all means, stick to my calorie deficit of around about 1.6, 1.8. Like religiously, I would not go over it, except once a week on a Friday. I'll binge, literally I'll binge. And I saw lots of progress like that. But that's the thing, guys. It doesn't mean when you take tests, it doesn't mean when you take any kind of steroid that you're going to grow huge. And that is a misconception that I've heard all too much. It does not mean that. There's a lot of other factors at play. Literally diet, literally training, sleep, the way you handle stresses. All these kind of things really do play a big factor. Now I lost a lot of weight. I just got small in the process. You know, I remember my one good friend was asking me, he's like, "Hey John, like, are you okay, bro? Like, what's wrong with you? You look sick." So I don't know, like after that, and then during the same time, that's when COVID hit. I kind of like reevaluated everything, and I was like, hey, you know what, I need to go on a proper bulk now. I've dropped down to about 92, 91 kgs from like 110, and I was like, hey, I need a bulk. But that's where the issue happened, because it was so foreign to me that, you know, staying at home, because I was obviously used to going work, family, business, that my eating went out the window. I literally like went off track completely. And that's where, you know, and that's also where I kind of stopped respecting gear as much. Now I would say that this kind of bad eating pattern followed for like a year and a half, because that's when we literally lost everything, house, car, sold everything, furniture, everything. Like, so, you know, I was not in the right frame of mind. You know, I was never brought up to kind of cope with that shit. You know what I mean? Always being very settled down in the family business and shit. I was not used to this kind of stuff. So when that all happened, obviously, like, hey bro, stress took over, and I gained, you know, a lot of fat, and I wasn't looking good. I wasn't looking good. Obviously relocated to Musgrave side. Thankfully, you know, we're staying with the mother-in-law, and yeah, thankful for that, because we had nowhere else to go. And yeah, trying to find a new job and trying to transition again, it was tough. So keeping the diet wasn't really on the cards. And during this time as well, I'll play with gear. I'll play with more things. I'll try to play with peptides. I'll play with I was playing with peptides, and I started trying Mastron, and I started trying Primo, and all this kind of stuff. You know, just because I was in a confident spot where I'm like, hey, you know what, I've used this, nothing wrong. And this is also during the time where I kind of went off the pharma grade because it was very expensive, and obviously went to different underground labs. So the whole, I would say, from what people knew of me like last year and the year before to what they know now, it's obviously been a very big difference. You know, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that, hey, using gear doesn't make a difference. It makes a huge difference, but there are a lot of factors that will make this difference even more severe. The differences to me were training harder, being in a more stable environment, because now there's a job, like got a job like beginning of last year, and being able to train, well, literally working in the gym, being able to train hard and pushing your limits literally was the biggest factor for me. But even a bigger factor wasn't the amounts of gear or different kind of shit per se. They definitely do help, but the diet really does play a big difference. Now I'm not in a financial spot where I can literally buy meat and, you know, afford things that I used to afford. You know, I'll be honest, I used to afford. But, you know, just adhering to a diet and obviously sticking to the basics really did help. Now, there are a lot of side effects that can be fought with using steroids, literally. You can obviously go on Google, you see a whole list of them. But from what I personally experienced was, number one, I'll say hair loss. But then again, my hairline was receding quite a bit. So it's just kind of like made the process a bit quicker. And obviously knowing what was, you know, going, I kind of was like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to let my hair thin out anymore because it's very, very thin. So I just decided to cut it off. And yeah, I do go bald, but it is quite a home mission to kind of go bald. So that's one. Another one would be acne. Now, different compounds affect different people differently. So, and also the quality as well also makes a difference. So for me, that can be felt, that can be seen, but the severity is obviously dependent on a lot of things, and obviously cleanliness as well is one of them. And if you work in an environment where you sweat a lot and, you know, you don't air yourself out, yeah, I think you will notice a bit more acne. But that's not bad. Obviously some people really do get bad acne where it like literally looks like the back is disfigured. So for me, the acne's been a bit mild, I guess. There are some, I don't know, I mean, obviously you can see it if, yeah, like it's there. Like I'm transparent, like, you know, and I would like to say that everyone who see me in the gym throughout my transition to what I am now has obviously seen that and be like, whoa, you know, a big difference. What's the secret? Guys, there's no real secret. Would I recommend anyone just jumping onto the bandwagon of using steroids? No. Clearly, if I was producing testosterone on my ace, like by myself, I wouldn't really jump on testosterone, because how can I say, you want to see what your body can do naturally as own capability as long as you can until the time comes. Because remember, you'll be reliant on it, and obviously each and every single jab, you know, it's not going to be pleasant. You know, you're going to have some sites that are sore, that kind of stuff. And, you know, it still kind of tenses me out every time I do it, no matter how many jabs I take. And also another negative part can be, once you start getting used to using gear, you want to get more adventurous. So you can really end up abusing it. You can really end up using more than you're supposed to. Just because you don't see the side effects now, it doesn't mean it's not going to affect you in the future. And that's obviously kind of determined the way I run my course now. The way I run my course now is just literally to save money, because there's not a lot, I'm literally barely left with any money every single month. So it would just literally be tip. If I do come across more money, I would add something like Mastron, I would add something like your Primo 200. Those are some, like, in my opinion, safer compounds where the side effects are very few and far between. Now, I haven't used Tren, I'm not going to use Tren. That's just a personal preference. I'm not comfortable, you know, as it is, my sleep and stuff is good, so I don't want to kind of deter that. And as I say, guys, there's not just one steroid out there. Like, people think, hey, use steroids. Yeah, oh shit, that's it. No, there's a lot of compounds out there. They affect differently. Some are mild, some are super strong. Obviously, you get tablets, you get injectables, you get patches, all that kind of shit. So for me, the orals that I've used, honestly speaking, has just been Anavar. That's it. And Anavar really works nicely. Again, guys, with a good diet plan, structured training program, training hard, being consistent, being disciplined, makes a huge difference. And I cannot stress it enough. This is the year, or like this past few months, where I've personally feel like I've transitioned from someone who looks like, you know, they hit the gym once or twice, to like making a revolutionary circle to be like, hey, this guy's a bodybuilder, which is great, because I won't lie, guys, when you've been training this long and people still fathom and like, hey, what do you play rugby? What do? You train to, hey, you're a bodybuilder, right? It feels good. It feels good. End of the day, I don't really do it for people's satisfaction and, you know, to get approval from people, but it's just nice. It's nice because of all the years. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, it was worth it. But yeah, as I said, like for me, it was a childhood goal. The whole, well, not childhood goal, but it was a whole goal for me in the bodybuilding, and for doing it like more years than not, you know, it's kind of like validation, I guess. But yeah, guys, with that all being said, I hope this helps. I hope this kind of sheds light on the truth about it, because the truth is there's no real shortcut. All this helps, but obviously if you, as I said again, diet, good supplementation also helps as well. Obviously for me, supplementing with great stuff like your TNT, Ghost, Dark Labs, pre-workouts, all that kind of stuff, it helps, you know. It helps push you hard in the gym, helps you recover better. For example, the protein like MetaLab and TNT, or just general way, you know, to hit your requirements. Now, as I said, guys, I do sell meal plans, and these meal plans do make a big difference, but then again, the onus is on you to actually follow it, to actually adhere to it. And that's when you'll see, honestly, the best results, is when you have a good synergy all around, from diet, training, supplementation. And if you do go, and if you do get your bloods done, as I always recommend, get your bloods done. If you do need to go on TOT, you will notice a massive difference. Now again, guys, my dosing and stuff like that is not high. You know, the highest I will ever go would be 2 mils of test, which would be, I think, 500. And that, as I said, for affordability's sake, I do that, you know, because I can get a 20 mil vial that will last like 10 weeks. So it can be affordable, but it can be very expensive. And remember, guys, you want to, when you start using the stuff, you want to run it for, you know, considerable amount of weeks. You can't just run like a trial and true compound, like let's say your test for like 2 weeks and say, hey, you know what, yeah, I think I'm done. It doesn't really work like that. You know, you want to start, you want to come off properly if you have to come off, and you want to do everything with longevity in mind. That's the whole thing as well. As great as it is to build muscle and, you know, look freaky and be strong in the gym, you want to obviously have health in your background, and that to follow when you're older. You know, you just don't want to look good now and push hard like a beast when you're 30, but when you come to 40, you are stuffed up because you abused the shit and you didn't, you know, respect it enough. And that's what I also see quite often, is how guys start, they run a huge stack, and then, you know, they look great, or they don't look that great, but anyways, and then they don't know how to come off, and then they just, you know, turn to a blob. So I've seen that. But the whole thing for me as well, it's just because this is a field that I'm doing, and this is a field that I like, with the supplementation, bodybuilding, all that kind of shit. I know you have to look a certain way. People respect you a certain way. People respect me a shit ton more now than they did before. But then, as always, guys, just because you look a certain way doesn't necessarily reflect on how much knowledge you actually have behind you. And that's one thing I know, and that's one thing that people always were like, oh, does this guy even train? But yeah, as I said, like for me, it was just, it felt like good. It's like revenge in a way. So it feels good, I'm not gonna lie. But then again, guys, this is my own personal take. I'm not saying take it, it's up to you, bro. But I always feel that when I was younger, if someone shared a lot about all of this from the get-go, you know, maybe things would have turned out differently. If you are gunning for a pro card and stuff like that, more you're gonna have to use it, you know. And obviously starting from young is what the guys do. But if you want longevity and you want to test yourself to the fullest of your capabilities, carry on going, bro, until you hit a plateau properly. And as you guys know, from the age of 30, you know, your testosterone does slowly decline. So always get your bloods checked out, see the test level, and take it from there, guys. So, you know, that's my take, and thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and remember, please like and subscribe. This is me in all honesty, and checking out. Cheers, guys.